I still remember the moment, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so ordinary. I was standing by the office coffee machine, adding a dash of oat milk to my morning blend. It was the same thing I did every day. Same cup, same silence, same corner of the break room, where the overhead light always flickered. Then Logan Reed walked in. He didn't say good morning, didn't smile, didn't even pretend to be civil. He just looked at me like I was a misplaced piece of furniture and said flatly, "Ava, I need to see you in my office." It wasn't a request. I followed him, confused but composed. The hallway felt longer than usual. Every step sharpened the tension in my chest, but I kept my face still. He didn't sit down, didn't ask me to. "You're fired," he said. No hesitation, no build-up. Just a clean cold swing. We don't need people dragging this company down. At first, I genuinely thought it was a bad joke. "Excuse me," I asked, trying to process what I'd just heard. "You heard me," he replied without looking up, flipping through a folder, like he was scanning a lunch menu. "You can collect your things, effective immediately." I stared at him, heart pounding in my ears. I wasn't angry, yet I was too stunned. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to list everything I had done for the company 11 years. Built the client services department from scratch, negotiated over 100 contracts, trained most of the team that sat just outside his glass office door. But none of that would matter to Logan. So I smiled. Calm, polite, and deliberate. "Understood," I said. "Have a nice day, Logan." I walked out of his office with my head high, not for his benefit, but for mine. My teammates looked up from their screens as I passed. A few of them started to stand. I gave them a subtle shake of the head. "Don't make this harder." I packed in silence. No tears, just this quiet roar building inside me. On the drive home, the memories flooded in 11 years of sacrificing weekends, holidays, birthdays, taking client calls while nursing a migraine, finishing contracts with one hand while holding back tears with the other after my divorce. And now I was nothing disposable. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious, because something didn't add up. We were days away from finalizing one of the company's largest international contracts, the Kingswell deal. I had spent 6 months on it. I knew every clause, every point of contact. I had built that deal from the ground up and booked the final review meeting myself. I was the only one authorized to lead it. Did Logan even know that? He hadn't asked a single question. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his voice in my head, so casual, so confident, like I was an afterthought. The next morning, just past 9 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut said, "Pick up." "Eva, it's Mr. Cole." His voice hit me like a thunderclap. The founder. The man who'd hired me after one honest interview more than a decade ago. "I just walked into the office," he said, tension tight in his throat. "Why the hell did you pack up and leave?" I hesitated. "Your son fired me." There was silence. Then a sharp inhale. "What?" He said I was lazy, that I wasn't needed anymore. I could hear papers rustling in the background. Then a loud thud. A folder slammed on a desk. "Eva, your contract, did he even read it?" "The Kingswell deal?" "I was scheduled to meet them this Friday," I said quietly. "Jesus Christ." He paused. Then slower, "You're the sole negotiator on that deal. No one else can legally sign it." I froze. He hadn't read the contract. He had no idea what he'd done. And in that moment, something inside me flipped. The betrayal still hurt. Of course it did. But beneath it, there was something else. Power. I didn't rush to respond to Mr. Cole. I didn't need to. By 10 a.m., the first voicemail came in. It was Logan. His voice had changed. That confident coldness from the day before gone. Now he sounded uncertain, careful. "Ava. Hey, listen, about yesterday. I may have acted too fast. We'd really appreciate if you could come in. It's, urgent." No apology, just panic disguised as professionalism. I let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, another call. Reception this time, then legal, then accounting. By 10:30, my phone looked like it had been plugged into a fire alarm. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat with my cold coffee in hand, staring out the window. The skyline didn't care about corporate meltdowns. It just stood there, silent and steady. At 10:42, a message popped up from a number I hadn't saved in years. "Nicole, She had worked under me before moving to marketing. We'd been close once late-night strategy calls, venting over sushi in the car, the kind of bond that only corporate chaos can create. I answered, "Eva, you won't believe what's happening right now. Try me." Logan just got absolutely roasted by Mr. Cole. Like, in front of the full board. I raised an eyebrow. Go on. Mr. Cole walked into the meeting room, slammed the Kingswell folder on the table, and asked one question. "Did you even read this before firing Eva?" My silence was enough encouragement. Logan tried to bluff, said he was streamlining, reevaluating roles. That whole fake strategic jargon thing. Classic. But Mr. Cole wasn't buying it. He flipped to the clause. "You know the one you always said would matter someday. The sole negotiator clause." Exactly. Everyone went quiet. Logan turned pale. Like, actual ghost pale. I thought he might pass out. I took a slow breath and Mr. Cole told him if this deal falls through, so does your position. There it was. The first real crack in Logan's armor. I hung up with Nicole, thanked her, and typed out a message to Mr. Cole. "I'll consider returning to finalize the Kingswell deal under specific conditions. I'd like to speak with you directly." He replied almost instantly, "Agreed, let's meet." I didn't use the employee entrance when I arrived at the building. I walked through the front lobby like a guest. Purposely. Every head turned. Some people blinked twice, like they couldn't believe I was back. I could feel their eyes track me across the marble floor. The receptionist stood as I approached. "Miss Monroe? Mr. Cole is expecting you, right this way." The walk to his office felt different this time. Not longer, just heavier. Mr. Cole was waiting at the door. He didn't smile. "Eva," he said with a nod. "Mr. Cole." We didn't shake hands. Inside the lights were low. His office always felt like a library, big windows, quiet carpet, too many leather chairs. He closed the door behind me and leaned against it with a sigh. I made a mistake. A big one. He sat across from me. I wanted to give Logan a chance to prove himself. I didn't think he'd burn bridges before learning how to build them. I didn't respond. "What he did to you, it wasn't just short-sighted. It was dangerous. You've carried more for this company than anyone realizes." He slid a paper across the desk. "I read your contract again. Every word. The autonomy clause is airtight." I nodded. "Yes, it is. We need you to close this deal. But more than that, I need to fix what this company has become." "I'll come back," I said. "But on 3 conditions: full autonomy over the Kingswell account in writing 0 interference from Logan, and a revised contract with safeguards. This can't happen again. Not to me, not to anyone." His answer was immediate. Done. The boardroom was ready by 1 p.m. The Kingswell delegation arrived on time, sharp suits and sharper eyes. Their CEO, Mr. Sayed, was no nonsense. He valued trust over flash one crack in professionalism, and the deal would vanish. I greeted him in Arabic. His face lit up. "You remembered," he said, smiling for the first time. "Respect," I replied, "should never be forgotten." The meeting was seamless. Everything we'd spent 6 months building held strong. No last-minute rewrites, no awkwardness, just business done right. 2 hours later, we signed. As Mr. Sayed and his team exited, Mr. Cole approached. His face showed something I hadn't seen before: relief. "You saved this company," he said. "No," I replied. "I protected what I helped build." We both knew the difference. For a few days, things were calm. Emails were polite. Colleagues who had avoided eye contact before now offered quiet congratulations. The air felt lighter. Mr. Cole announced Logan would be stepping back from all executive decisions until further notice. And yet, something still felt off. It started small. A delayed reimbursement for my Kingswell travel. Then an unsigned approval form that had been sitting in legal for days. Minor annoyances. Then came the email. A message I allegedly sent one with incorrect pricing details sent to an overseas client. Except I never wrote it. Worse, the client forwarded it to me, confused and disappointed. Fortunately, we had a good relationship. I explained the error, clarified the terms. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I flagged it with our IT team. They checked the server. No signs of an outside breach. The email had come from inside the building, a shared machine. Someone had copied my login credentials. That's when I knew Logan wasn't done. He wasn't trying to fire me anymore. He was trying to discredit me. Smear my name, make me look careless, unstable, a liability. It wasn't personal sabotage, it was strategic. And it wasn't new. I'd seen this before. My first job out of university had a director just like him. He never raised his voice. He just rearranged things, took you off projects, lost your documents, rewrote your emails, until eventually you left frustrated, isolated, and invisible. But I wasn't 22 anymore. I wasn't leaving. I started documenting everything, every delay, every falsified file, every missing signature. I bought a notebook, logged conversations, kept backups, created timestamps. Paper trails are more powerful than outrage in places like this. Then, one night, as I was walking past a conference room, I heard him. "Logan, she's unstable," he said. My breath caught. Since she came back, she's been erratic. I don't think she's fit to manage high-pressure clients. Another voice replied, someone I didn't recognize. But the Kingswell deal, she pulled that off under serious pressure. Logan scoffed. She got lucky. But we can't run a company on luck. We need to start thinking about succession planning. I stood outside that door frozen. Then I walked away slowly, silently. But inside, something snapped. This wasn't just revenge. It was war. That night I didn't go home. Not right away. I sat alone in the glass meeting room, the one we'd used for the Kingswell presentation. The city glowed behind me, windows blinking like distant eyes. It was nearly 9 p.m., and the office was empty. Almost. The silence wrapped around me like static. Too loud to think, too quiet to cry. What was I still doing here? I had saved the company's biggest deal, walked back in with leverage, been promoted, and finally had the recognition I had once begged for in silence. And still, I was being hunted. Quietly, strategically, surgically. This wasn't just workplace politics. This was a pattern. Logan wasn't trying to win anymore. He was trying to erase me, from the inside out, piece by piece. And I was exhausted. For a moment, I felt small again, like the younger version of myself who had once worked under a toxic boss and thought staying silent was the way to survive. The version who took on extra work just to prove her worth. Who never complained when others took credit. But that woman, she didn't exist anymore. And I wasn't going to disappear. Not this time. The next morning, I arrived early. The lights were still off in most departments. The smell of stale coffee lingered in the break room. And yet, I didn't feel tired. I felt clear. At 9:00 sharp, I got a message from IT. They had escalated the email incident to the internal audit team. David, the lead investigator, wanted to speak. His office had been moved into what used to be a storage room. Now it was a war room file, boxes, laptops, whiteboards with timelines and user IDs. He greeted me without pleasantries. "Ava, thanks for coming in." He pulled up a file on the screen. So that suspicious email, it came from a shared workstation near the break room. Someone manually entered your credentials. So someone copied my login. Most likely. No phishing, no breach, it's internal. I folded my arms. This has happened more than once. He gave a tight nod. Yes, that's what we're finding. He clicked through logs and flagged items. Spreadsheets altered. Document approvals removed. All using your credentials or someone pretending to be you. I swallowed the burn rising in my throat and, we've narrowed it down. A consistent pattern links back to one user profile. He looked at me carefully. Logan's assistant. I didn't react. I already knew. We're not accusing anyone yet, he said. But the data is significant. I nodded slowly. What happens next? That depends on Mr. Cole. He's asked to see all findings personally. He wants full transparency. I want to be there. David paused. That's not required. I didn't ask if it was, I said, meeting his eyes. If the truth is coming out, I want to look everyone in the eye. He nodded once, understood. That night, I didn't sleep, not even a little. I kept thinking about all the people who had left quietly over the past 2 years. Colleagues who were smart, loyal, competent, gone. I used to think it was just burnout, career changes. Now I wasn't so sure. I arrived early the next morning, earlier than usual. Mr. Cole was already in the boardroom, standing at the window. He didn't turn around when I entered. Everything ready, I asked. He gave a slow nod. It will be. One by one, the audit team arrived. Then the legal counsel. Then the HR liaison. Logan was last. He walked in 10 minutes late, phone in hand, mask of calm plastered across his face. When he saw me, he blinked. "She's not on the audit committee," he said, trying to stay cool. Mr. Cole still didn't turn. "She's here at my request. This is supposed to be confidential." "Then you shouldn't have made it public when you falsified company records," I said. Logan laughed, but it was brittle. "That's ridiculous," David cut in. "We've traced multiple logins tied to your assistant's credentials, all connected to irregularities in Eva's files. There's no proof I told her to do anything." "But there is," I said. "Voicemails, time-stamped approvals, and a security badge scan that shows you were standing at that workstation the moment the email went out." Logan's jaw twitched. "She's bitter. She's just upset about being let go." "You didn't let me go," I said. "You tried to bury me. You failed." And then finally Mr. Cole turned. He didn't raise his voice. "I gave you more than a role," he said. "I gave you trust, space to learn, and you used it to tear down the people building this company." Logan looked around the room like someone realizing for the first time that no one was coming to save him. "This isn't what you think." "No," Mr. Cole said, cutting him off. "It's worse." He looked at the audit team. "Effective immediately, Logan Reed is suspended from all duties. The board will review this report in full. Until then, your access is revoked." Logan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked at me one last time. Not with arrogance, not with anger, but with disbelief. Like he couldn't believe I'd made it all the way here. He walked out in silence. I stayed. Mr. Cole sank into a chair, shoulders sagging. "I failed him," he whispered. "As a leader, maybe even as a father. You can't lead someone who doesn't want to grow," I said softly. "But you can lead this company. You still have that choice." He looked at me, really looked at me, and nodded once. And for the first time since this began, I exhaled. 2 weeks passed. Logan never returned. At first, people whispered, not just about his suspension, but about how clean it had been. No announcement, no scene, just silence. His name was scrubbed from the leadership email chain. His corner office lights never turned back on. And somehow that quiet exit was louder than any scandal. The audit committee released its report internally. The findings were clear and damning. Fabricated emails, login manipulation, internal system abuse, all designed to discredit one person, me. But it wasn't just about me anymore, because the deeper the auditors dug, the more they uncovered not just sabotage, but a pattern of silent departures, blocked promotions, and erased contributions. Logan hadn't just targeted me. He had built an empire of insecurity. And now that empire was gone. A few days later, I got the message. Mr. Cole wanted to see me in his office. When I walked in, he was already sitting this time with a folder placed neatly on the desk. "I've been thinking a lot about what this company needs," he said. "Not just in operations, but in leadership, in culture." He pushed the folder toward me. "Director of Client Strategy. It reports directly to me." I stared at it, stunned. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," he said. "That's why you deserve it." I opened the folder. The offer was real. The terms were solid. The authority was unmistakable. But I didn't say yes, not yet. If I accept, I said I want more than a title. I want to shape how we move forward. I want to rebuild this culture the right way, from the inside. He didn't hesitate. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." My new office wasn't ready yet. Renovations, new layout. So for now, I worked out of a corner room with a view of the loading docks. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I sat there that first night, long after everyone had left, and stared at the blank nameplate on the door. For years, I had walked through these halls wondering if anyone actually saw what I did. The hours, the impossible saves, the client calls that went way past midnight, the contracts that held the company together by threads I personally tied. And for so long I thought being invisible was the price of being professional. But that was a lie. I got to work immediately. The first thing I did was implement anonymous reporting, no more whisper networks. If something felt off, people could say so without fear. Then I pulled HR files. Quietly. I looked at every exit over the past 2 years. I found names, I found stories, patterns. People who left not because they wanted to, but because they were pushed. I reached out. Some didn't respond. Some had already moved on. But a few, they came back. Not for revenge, for repair. I reinstated roles, rebuilt teams, sat with managers who hadn't realized the damage being done under their noses. And I didn't stop there. Every Friday, I blocked an hour on my calendar open door. No agenda, no é CVP. If you wanted to talk, you came in. About your team, about your role, about something that felt off, about something that felt unfair. At first it was quiet, hesitant knocks, nervous voices. But then it changed. The interns came, the assistants, the mid-level staff who never quite knew if they mattered. And they started to ask me what I'd never been asked when I was them. How did you not lose it? How did you stay calm? How did you keep going? And I told them the truth. You don't always get to pick your battles. Sometimes the war shows up at your desk uninvited, but you get to decide what kind of person you are while it's happening. That's where the real power is. The office changed with me. Meetings that once felt like cold performance reviews started sounding like actual conversations. People disagreed and weren't punished for it. New ideas flowed, old grudges dissolved. And slowly, the culture I had always hoped for started to take shape. A place where competence wasn't punished, where silence didn't buy safety and speaking up didn't cost you everything. About a month in, I got an email from Mr. Saeed Kingswell's CEO. Subject respect still remembered. In the body, our Middle East partners are looking to expand the deal. We trust your judgment. Let's talk soon. I smiled when I read it. Because here's the thing, people remember how you show up under pressure. Not how loud you are, not what you wear, not how many people you impress at meetings, but how you carry yourself when you're being pushed, questioned, or cornered. And in the middle of everything I had remembered that. Word eventually trickled down that Logan had tried to get interviews at smaller firms out of state. No one bit. The story had followed him, not from press releases, but from quiet calls and private back channels. People talk. And in business, your silence never speaks louder than your mistakes. Some said Mr. Cole pulled strings to keep Logan's name out of headlines. Maybe it was a father's last act of mercy. I didn't ask. I didn't care. Because my job wasn't to chase revenge. It was to build what he tried to destroy. And I did. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, quiet, uneventful. I was walking past the boardroom, the same glass room where the Kingswell deal was signed, when I paused. It was empty now, just chairs and echoes. But to me it was a monument. That space held everything. The panic, the power shift, the silence when Logan realized I was the one thing he couldn't control. That deal changed the course of my career. But the real turning point wasn't in that room. It was in Logan's office the day he fired me, and I smiled instead of begged. That's what people didn't understand. It wasn't about winning a battle. It was about refusing to let someone define your worth. Logan never understood that. He thought power meant control. That volume equaled confidence. That entitlement was the same thing as leadership. And now, he was a cautionary tale people whispered about near the elevator. I never said his name again in meetings, not once. He didn't deserve the echo. After the audit, the culture shifted in ways I hadn't expected. Junior staff were bolder. Managers asked for feedback without fear. People stayed late not out of obligation, but because they were building things they believed in. One day, I walked into the break room and overheard a new hire asking another, "Who's Eva Monroe? I keep hearing her name." And the reply, "She's why we're still standing." I didn't interrupt. I just walked back to my office, smiling quietly. I never told anyone what it cost me emotionally to stay composed during all of it, to hold my ground when I wanted to scream, to stay professional when being professional felt like surrender. But I did it because I had to. Because every time I was dismissed, overlooked, or manipulated, I remembered one thing. I knew my value. And they were terrified I might realize it too. I created a policy shortly after the Kingswell signing. Ava's Clause. That's what people started calling it. It required every major deal to have a named primary negotiator, one whose removal required written notice and multi-level review. People thought it was about legal protection, but it was about something bigger. Acknowledgement, accountability, visibility. It meant you can't erase someone just because you feel threatened. Months passed. We expanded the Kingswell partnership, launched new initiatives, even got nominated for an Ethics in Leadership Award. The company that once tried to push me out now built campaigns around the values I'd fought to uphold. It was surreal and poetic, but I never let it soften me too much, because I knew what it had taken to get here. Sometimes I'd see Logan's name in LinkedIn connection suggestions. No profile picture, no recent activity, just a ghost. Once I clicked on the profile out of curiosity. Location unknown, status open to work. I closed the tab, not out of cruelty, but because I didn't need to know where he landed. He was no longer the point. One afternoon, I was leaving the office late and passed the old intern Sam, now a full-time coordinator. He stopped me and said, "Can I ask something?" "Sure." When everything was falling apart. "Weren't you scared?" I looked at him. "Yes," I said. But I wasn't afraid of losing my job. I was afraid of losing myself. He nodded slowly, like he understood more than he wanted to admit. "Thanks," he said. Then he added, "You make the rest of us believe we can survive this place." I laughed gently. "You don't survive it, Sam. You outgrow it. That's the thing they never prepare you for in corporate life. The way your identity becomes tangled in job titles, email signatures, who CC'd you and who didn't. But I had untangled all of it. And when the dust finally settled, I wasn't bitter. I was clear. I had been underestimated, dismissed, sabotaged. But I had never been defeated. And I would never let anyone boss's son or not take my worth from me again. They thought firing me was the end of my story. But it was the beginning of theirs unraveling without me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't seek revenge. I just showed up stronger, smarter, and harder to erase. Because real power doesn't scream. It stands still while others fall apart. If someone tries to write you out of the story, don't fight for a line. Become the plot twist.